Kiss My Chaos. Taking stories of trauma into triumph while living life in the middle and everything in between. All views are expressed solely of the host, guests, and for entertainment purposes only. You don't like it? Well, you can kiss our chaos. Here are your hosts, Abigail Dark and DT Hudson.
I'm back. Christmas is over. Not to be a Scrooge, but thank God. All I got was beautiful, clean coal in my stocking. So, no, actually, Abby, did you get everything you wanted?
I did. I have these leg massager things that I got that I'm like super stoked about. The only thing is I haven't gotten to use them yet because my 9-year-old son has jacked all of my gifts.
Oh, of course.
And the foot massager, the leg massager. Yeah. So eventually I'll get to use them.
I was pleasantly surprised because I'm always uncomfortable getting gifts. I've already been through that and why, but
I know you still haven't opened the one I brought you today.
I took a peek in there and I saw hand sanitizer and I'm
big trying to tell you something.
Yeah,
and
no
mints.
kidding. No kidding. Not a dumb woman. Like he's so unclean. No, kind of a germaphobe myself, but I got my DeWalt vacuum. I was very excited. And then out of nowhere, at the family Christmas, we draw names, I get an outdoor pizza oven. How BA is that?
An outdoor pizza oven?
Outdoor pizza oven.
Cool.
Yeah, very cool.
For summertime uses, no doubt, but
not indoor use, but yeah, definitely summertime use. But I'm going to use it. I mean, I think it's cool. So yeah, I have to build a little pergola. Put all that stuff under.
Could be fun.
It'll be great. Projects, buddy. Projects. That's what I'm talking about. So I've been thinking about this podcast for a long time. A lot of us have been thinking about it. And this is exciting. This is probably the most comfortable I've been on a podcast because I got the nicest seat in the house. But today we're going to do a story, a true story, an impactful story, and there is definitely a purpose behind it. And it's going to be a story of addiction, and it's going to be a story of victory, and it's going to be a story of resilience. And I will tell you, our guest here today has the biggest balls for doing this because this is it's a hard topic, and for someone to be willing to come in and share such an intimate part of their life, it takes a lot of guts and it takes a lot of willpower. And he's looking at me like, all right, that's about enough of that shit. So I guess what we do is we start where you want to start. We don't script these things. These are conversations. And we always encourage people to share what they want. And, some things shouldn't be shared. And I think that's important to keep it that way. We want to do the meaningful things that help people that we can associate with, and telling a story builds a path sometimes.
Absolutely. I don't love compliments, but I don't shy away from the piece that you said about this being ballsy, because addicts and or people that are addicted to lifestyle or a lifestyle choice in itself shy away from the fact that being transparent, like the embarrassing pieces, the pieces that make you look bad, the pieces that could make other people feel that you are a subhuman piece of garbage, is what we don't share. And that is what you end up drawing strength from to move on to your next piece of life. That's what, in my opinion. A lot of this is going to be opinion-based too, because I am not a doctor. I am not a psychiatrist, a therapist, any of that. But I do know how my journey affected me. So, I mean, it is ballsy.
Mm-hmm. It is ballsy. It's exactly what it is. I use ballsy all the time. That's what we do. For those of you who don't know what ballsy is, courageous. It is courageous because it takes a bit. So where did this journey begin for you? How did this all begin?
Pertaining to the heavier pieces of it, I think starting with the idea of a chemical imbalance is important. I think most people start out with it ingrained in them. The people who are qualified to say this, say that in some cases it's genetic. Some of these things run in your blood, but at the end of the day, I think I never developed healthy coping mechanisms. I learned, you watch and learn from the things around you, and I think a big piece of my story is that I had nothing to watch. I ended up trying to develop my own coping mechanisms, but in that way, just still fell into what I knew subconsciously. I grew up in sports, kickboxing and wrestling, but ultimately, in some ways, fell into some sort of outcast crowd where that's just what we did. You go, I think like most kids do. I don't know, that's opinion based too. I can't speak for everyone else, but we started smoking weed and we started drinking, and we thought, well, we wrestle and we kickbox. We're not gonna be unhealthy. This is just how we mitigate stress and develop connection is a big one. In high school, you feel middle school even. If we're starting where it started, middle school, we were trying to feel connected to one another, not knowing a single thing about connectedness or how to develop relationship, communicate, build a bond, and all of our that outcast crowd that I talk of. Some of these guys, the ones that are still alive, we're still good friends with, or I'm still good friends with, and whether the parents were divorced or not, we all come from broken homes. Not in the regard of just divorce, just the pieces weren't there. The puzzle pieces were not painting the whole picture. And we didn't have a direct example of what words. We didn't have a blueprint. We didn't have a perfect guideline, which nobody does. And that I want to make that clear too, is I think addicts get a bad rap because a lot of people say nobody has an easy time. Why would you have to turn to drugs to get from point A to point B? So I don't want to shy away from that. I commend everyone who did it without them, but for a lot of people, it's just not how the whole cookie crumbles.
So you're saying a lot of it can be, in your opinion, genetic based, but also it's environment.
Absolutely.
Environment. And then in that environment, you build relationships, and sometimes these relationships are lifelong relationships, right? I mean, It doesn't make someone a bad person necessarily. I mean, bad things can happen, but that unfortunately, to me, school has changed. I'm becoming an old man now, but school's changed, and I don't know the dynamics of it. You're just a year or two younger than me, so things are different. But I get it. And for us, it was alcohol. It wasn't the other stuff. I mean, weed was available, but that wasn't my thing. I mean, it was booze because they're so easy to get, and now some of these other things are easier to get too. But what you're talking about is a blueprint, and I don't know if that blueprint's ever done. I mean, you just keep adding to it.
Right. And that's just it. People talk about generational curses, and things that run through people's family that nobody learned how to directly represent to their children, and they just carry it on. And then those children don't know how to directly represent that to their children, and then they carry it on. It's a family trait at that point. Mm-hmm. This is just how we do stuff. And I thought I was smart. I do come from a line of drinkers in that regard. A big chunk of my family drank, and I thought I was smart. I'm like, I'm just going to do drugs. Then I'm not an alcoholic. And my chemical imbalances are different. I'll be okay because I'm a kickboxer. I got in trouble in middle school. I still remember I got in trouble in middle school. We were all pulled in one by one. They were looking for these drugs, these pills. And they just got passed down the line. No, they're pulling everyone in. They're pulling everyone in. And they got tossed to me, and I visually saw him get pulled into the dean's office. So I go to the bathroom, and I figure out what I'm going to do with him. And I could have flushed him. Could have been perfectly fine. I always had a drawstring in my hoodie that was a shoelace that had the ends chopped off. I could hide stuff in my hoodie and slide it up into the hood of my hoodie and pull it like this. And they'd be back here in the back of my neck. And if they always just slide your hoodie like this, and they were too quick with it every time. They think you're going to have it in your pockets and whatever. But I still remember what he said to me that day. I said, "Sir, I would never do something like that. I'm in sports and I kickbox." And he goes, "You wouldn't be the first kickboxer to do drugs, kid." And it's just, I guess, just one of my first insights of how disillusioned I was. I walked out of there thinking, no, he doesn't know me. But looking back, it's something completely different. Nowadays, and the connection I was making was those are my two coping mechanisms. Those are the things that I did. But one is a lot more destructive than the other. And it's not the one punching people in the face, which is...
Right.
You have that nature versus nurture aspect. I think a lot of people, especially parents that might be listening to this, pretty common. I grew up in a small town, and nowadays they throw senior parties for the kids. You know, the kids will be out drinking in a field or, you know, adding weed or other drugs into that aspect. At what point does it become more than just teenage angst and just having fun?
I can only speak for me, but it's a deep hurt. Like, it's a deep hurt and to want to cover something up. And at a young age, you don't even know that's what you're doing. You don't even know there was something missing. In regards to the drugs, fast forward a couple of years, I went to high school and things got a whole lot more real for a lot of people. The area I grew up in wasn't a bad place, but there's bad things going on everywhere. And some of the blueprint that was missing in my life was an accurate father figure that was supposed to tell me how to be a man. So he was around. And that's not what I'm saying. A lot of people do not have that. And I respect them for powering through and powering on. But for someone, in some cases, my story has a little bit to do with not showing me the exact way to carry myself, and I felt that missing. I went elsewhere to look for that. And I found some other people, some older guys, that showed me the ropes in a completely different lifestyle. All that mixing together with people in my high school dying, me trying to figure out my way through loss at an early age, 14, 15 years old, and then trying to navigate the ropes of these guys that I figured at that age were the best father figures I could choose. My deep hurt come from loss and feeling the pain of others, watching the pain of others, trying to examine the pain within myself, but ultimately something missing and a deep hurt. I think it's okay to have fun and party. To an extent. And there's signs. There's signs on whether you're doing it for another reason or not. It's just unfortunate that when that takes hold of most people, they're too young to actually observe those signs.
What do you feel are a few of those signs that parents could look for?
I think that journey is majorly introspective as well. I think it takes a lot from a parent to really look inside themselves and realize what, and it sounds crazy, but what have I done to this kid? What stimuli have we given them? Positive ones and bad ones. That's why I've always loved the fourth step in working through your addictions. It's talking about what you've done to other people, what they've done to you, and then the actual true story. Because they say there's three sides to every story: yours, theirs, and the truth. Because you have a lot of opinions, you have a lot of opinions. You know, there's two sides, and then what actually happened, the raw facts of how it went down without perspectives or opinions or life constructs coming from minds built completely different. And so to actually look for signs like that, there is completely physical ones. I'm sure you can look for. Obvious depression at an age where it may not seem so natural. Clinging to escapism. In today's day and age, it's probably really hard to tell.
Yeah, for
with
sure.
the quote-unquote iPad kids,
Right.
Mm-hmm.
with the TV, with the Netflix, the whole construct of society to pull you in and entertain you, quote-unquote, but in some ways it's delusional to think it's not indoctrination. So mass hypnotism, so it's kind of hard to look that way, but extreme escapism for me was one of my problems too. Those are a couple physical signs, but truthfully, like at a young age, for example, me and my lady just got a baby dog, and this dog would eat all day. Wants to eat everything. But his stomach's going to hurt. But he don't know that. Me as a dog parent, right, has got to make sure he eats when he's supposed to. And do the things when he's supposed to. Why can't I be outside all day? Well, we live in negative 20 degrees. You will get frostbite. And you can't eat because you will throw up, be hungry. And your stomach will have problems growing up. It's the same thing as like when these kids aren't old enough to observe what's going on within themselves. And God bless her, my mom tried. They both did. My mom and my dad both tried to tell me, this runs in your blood. This is what happens. At the time, it was just weed. I remember she pulled in parents of all the other kids that she caught us smoking weed with. And to her, it was a big deal because she knew what was inside my head. To them, they're like, they're just smoking a little weed. What's the problem? I mean, I guess that's that. That's that piece of that.
The guidance and the leadership portion. You, just from what you had been explaining, that's kind of what I'm gathering from it, was missing in your head. Whether it was available for you to grab onto or not, I think is a big piece of it. From what you're saying is the parents had tried, but they hadn't tried in a way that your brain would recognize that they were trying to lead you on a different path.
That's completely possible. A lot of it's a blur too, because I was so convinced that I knew how the world worked. I was so convinced that this is what I need to feel good, so this is what I'm going to do. And in that, working from that perspective, there is probably a lot of guidance that I missed that was them just pleading out to help me. And I'm sure in that way, all parents know. You really expect me to have my kid listen to me all the time? It's impossible.
That's the truth. I mean, aside from the drugs, just, even if it's a drug-free child, I mean, the challenges that can arise from it. I mean, you're trying to parent from a parental aspect. You're trying to parent, but you're also living in a world that maybe they did or did not live in. So you're trying to educate yourself. And I mean, what is the approach? I mean, do you have to learn together? I mean, to me, it seems like being involved. I mean, being there as much as you can and talking. I mean, I'm not talking to a 5-year-old. I'm talking, a teenager, and it's not easy to talk to a teenager usually. I mean, especially one who's, developing their own life, and someone who doesn't necessarily want to be told what to do. They respect and love their parents, but I mean, there's boundaries, right? You start to develop boundaries at that age, and your brain starts developing into adulthood.
And before I get into this next piece, I just want to say it's completely opinion based.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, that's what we do here,
right?
And this is your story; it might not be someone else's.
Yeah. I think there's many phases to a kid growing up, but the two important ones are when they go from a child to becoming a teenager, because in your mind, you see them just going to the next phase, but that's the switch in a kid's brain where they're like, I'm an adult now. I'm a human. I have a consciousness that's beyond what you guys are perceiving. I'm learning all this new stuff. I have to be here. I go to school. I hang with my friends, all this stimuli, and I'm learning so much about the world. Yet you guys are the one restricting me. That's why I don't think it's a completely bad thing that these parents are throwing the senior parties.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do want someone to be there with me, to learn with me, to analyze things with me. I don't want someone to tell me, I've always been this way. I'm still this way. People at my work are saying, why do you have to ask that question? Why do you ask so many questions? Because why? I want to know why. If I don't know why, what's the point of me doing what I'm doing?
That's a fair question.
I think about that too, because I mean, my kid is very much a why kid. He's very much like, well, why this, why that? And he's very, how do I put it, aware of the world more than most kids that I see. He sees things. He sees the addict on the side of the road asking for money. He sees well, why are they doing that, Mom? Whoa, that's a loaded question. So and he's asked to listen to the podcasts, and I think maybe his brain isn't quite there yet. He's a little young for that. But, as he gets a little older and he is able to see these things, we give him enough information that for his age to be able to understand. But I think that that's important for parents, is to not restrict their kids, be like, well, you don't need to know anything about that. Well, what are they going to do? They have access to Google, Alexa, streaming. If they want to find out, they're not stupid. They're going to figure it out. So why not have it come from your parental perspective and say, like, this is our perspective on it, but there are many ways to look at things in life. And so seeing that coming, I'm absorbing this, coming from a person who needs to know the why to everything.
You are a why person. That's okay. It's a sign of intelligence.
It truly is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if directed in the right way, that's how we create free thinkers and self-starters.
Absolutely.
But if told, no, that's just the way it is, whatever you want to call them, NPCs, factory workers, they get bogged down, depressed, and they don't think that there's any way out of the world. Mm-hmm. Go to school, hear the bell, ding, next class, next class, next class.
Pavlov's dog.
Yep.
Boom, go out in the world, make money so you can survive, barely, right, or good, but it's a chance. You're rolling the dice every step you go. Having someone, if your child still trusts you enough to come ask you why, dear God, find a reason to tell them why.
Yeah, find a reason. Because I said so, I think, is one of the most damning things a parent can say, because I said so. And I've said it out of anger. I've done it 100 times. And
I think we all have.
Yeah, it's like, because I said so, and I've had it.
And that's okay, too, I think.
To an extent, I suppose.
You don't just grow nobody's just going to grow into a perfect person.
No.
There's always going to be places to learn, always things to develop deeper. But in that regard, like, at least pertaining back to this story, like, that's a huge piece of it.
It is a
massive piece of it is kind of tying multiple things in together. Maybe my ability to perceive how they were trying to reach out and help me was just different, because maybe it wasn't exactly that they were gone and absent, more so that they just didn't connect with me in the way that I was looking for.
Right.
I think that's also a parent's duty as well, is figuring out how my child connects, how I can connect with them.
Right.
In that way.
I think you're right.
Yeah. So how did it move from, like you said, you were in high school, trying to figure things out for your life. When did it move from I'm recreationally using drugs to I can't get past the next moment without it?
I think an important piece of why I went to look for those father figures it is important to explain the absence come a little bit physically. There was a traveling job involved. There was a big portions of the year that he wasn't around. So even if it was just the traveling job, in a developmental brain as a kid, there's pieces of that masculine energy that you're missing throughout the year. Enough of those years, and there's going to be a deficiency. Now, on top of that, as an adult now, I understand it. I get home from a road trip, working for someone else, getting pennies while they get dollars, doing this thing, being professional, coming home to a house that I barely recognize anymore because things have changed. It wasn't a completely perfectly wrapped, beautiful presentation. It can't feel like it's a perfect, easy path forward leading this household. And looking elsewhere was my choice. I found people who made me feel like there was a bigger purpose in life, the camaraderie between these guys, willing to die for the things they believed, that chose to partake in what I like to explain and call the game. But ultimately, their life was surrounded by drugs and their coping mechanisms, but ultimately the camaraderie for them come from gangs, come from an overarching source of protection. Maybe that's what they needed, but ultimately that was the little stutter step that moved that forward. I started watching people do things in life at a different level. I was always kind of, in ways, my family tried to protect me from, as families should, as parents should, they try to protect you from the harsher parts of life. But if you decide to go out and search for those, it's a little harder to protect that kid. On top of, like I said, there was car accidents and a lot of unfortunate things that happened in high school. It introduced me to loss pretty early, I guess. Ultimately is when I started partaking in the activities that those said father figures I searched for were telling me is how you get ahead. Especially because even with the what you call maybe softer drugs, the weed, the drinking, even some cocaine, hallucinogenics, stuff, which they're not softer drugs. I'm just saying, for me, those were the softer drugs.
Right.
Mm-hmm. You do those all the time as a kid with no money and no job. You're going to start formulating ways on how you're going to try to piece together this whole thing. How can I still go to school? How can I still play sports? How can I do these drugs and still work out my chemical imbalance, which is one of the most important pieces for me, because all this stuff I'm talking about with family is just a precursor as to why my drug addiction got so bad. It's what opened the door. But ultimately, it's when I started partaking in a game where all the other people in this game are doing the exact same thing as me, or at least started doing it the exact same thing as me. They may be 10 years ahead, 15 years ahead. But it's ultimately completely surrounding your chemical imbalance. If I don't have these drugs, how can I get them? If I don't have them, I'll take them. If I don't have this money to provide for myself, how can I get them? If I don't have them, I'll take them. It allows, at a young age, it allows a completely freeing mindset of, I can do what I want when I want. And if you are running with people who even further push that notion, like we'll have your back, of course you're going to try to do what you want. But ultimately it was probably not knowing it then, but ultimately it was seeing what the life did to other people. And things weren't so extreme at that point. Even those guys on the street were kind of looking out for me in that way. This kid's still in high school. This is what we're going to allow him to be around. This is what we're going to allow him to do. But even the things that I did see, like in that way, how heartless humans can get when it's a means to an end. I think a deeper coping mechanism opened up for me trying to mitigate my empathy. I didn't want it. I wanted to get rid of it because, that's just another thing that didn't feel good. Let me just find something let me put something else that works with that chemical imbalance instead of trying to figure out a healthy coping mechanism to truly rid myself of needing a crutch. At that point, that vocabulary wasn't anywhere near anything that come through my brain. So it was freshman year, maybe the summer after freshman year in high school, but we were getting into all kind of things that seemed like fun at the time. Some of them felt heavy, but I didn't necessarily feel that till later. And the few people around me who also were my age and also felt the same things that I was feeling chose a similar path. We come across OxyContin before all of the crackdowns happened with Big Pharma, before all the doctors got caught for prescribing people hundreds and hundreds, before that it was actually a big war on them. They tasted like candy to a kid. There was nothing stopping us from thinking that this is the obvious next step for us. It takes away, for us, opinion-based, that was the perfect piece to the chemical imbalance, at least for me. That's when things took a very, very strong turn, because a lot of people, when they talk about their drug of choice, even still, when they're recovered and all put together, it's still super hard for them to not make it sound like they're idolizing it or fantasizing about it, because it was the missing puzzle piece at the time that fulfilled that. There's no way it could have gotten that bad if it wasn't. But it is what mitigated my empathy. I no longer felt bad about doing anything to other people as long as I was high. And it was just a double whammy that physically it made me feel okay too. But ultimately it was dealing with at that age too, it hits in a way where you're trying to figure out all the constructs of reality and the social aspect of society. Living around institutions, like just schooling in general, people who do just tell you just because that's the way it is, you feel real boxed in. Things get real bogged down. And then to also be playing a tiny role at that time, but you're still playing the game at 14 years old. Of course of course I tried to mitigate life to feel softer and like a fairy tale. And some pills are too good at giving you that illusion, I think.
It becomes the fairy tale.
Exactly.
And, it's interesting. I love how you call this the game. And like with any game, it's competitive. And as a freshman in high school, yeah, you were probably protected from some of the people that have been in the game longer, but you can always move up. What would that look like? I guess, is it a choice to move up or?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It absolutely is. There was a story, not a story. It was the storyline I was living in. Obviously, if there's a gang, there's an opposing side, right?
Right.
We all grew up together. All of us grew up together in not a huge town, but it's kind of a funny aspect. Kind of the people I hung around, a bunch of white kids trying to play a role in a quote unquote grouping of people who were something completely different. We're all trying to play away. It's all a means to an end. This other kid that I had known since elementary school decided to do the exact same thing I was doing, just on a different side of the tracks. He decided to buy into the game for complete drug reasons, which I can not respect, but I can understand. And that has nothing to do with any affiliation, or that stuff is dead to me. What I mean is I can understand it. I can't respect it because of the pain and agony that everyone is putting everyone else through, but I can understand it because that's exactly what I did.
It's fair.
It come to a point in time, I decided to drop everything else in life. No more sports. Most of my friends, no, my lifestyle is going to hurt you. I can't do this, and I'm not stopping doing drugs. I decided to start pushing other things away. He decided, I want out. And they wouldn't let him. The story goes he tried to get out, left it. He had money left on the street that he owed people. They went to his house and broke his father's legs. And it painted a really clear picture to me. But this is how addicted to drugs I was at the time. My first question was, how do I live this life still and put all this together, but don't let anyone in my life get hurt? It wasn't, I need to figure my way out safely. It was, how do I carry on and get my means to an end done? Because I've been doing this chemical imbalance mitigation deal for so long, and now people rely on me to do certain jobs, small at the time, don't get me wrong, but in my purview, in my respective life, that was what gave me meaning. And I decided the place I was living at the time, not the place for me anymore. I got to move on. I got to remove myself, keep my affiliations in some way, move it to a different area where I care about less people and have less loose ends for them to try to tie up on me. And I did. I moved it down the line to a place where I had familial connections, decided it was a perfect place to set up for the life I was trying to live. And that's exactly what I did. I think people underestimate how vast the reaches of some gang organizations are. Even if you're not fully jumped in, which I wasn't, there's other things in that lifestyle, titles, some in which identify people who are okay with that are pretty much have the green light to be social, at least, with two different organizations for the intent of money. Whether they want to call it a panda or a gypsy, it's because it's an ecosystem.
It's a business.
The whole business, but it isn't
Hierarchy.
exactly. And they say this person has a need or a use, but they don't need to be on the front lines bleeding for it. This person doesn't need to push that agenda. And there's gray areas for all of it. Even if you're one thing, sometimes you get sucked into being another. But in that regard, I had people half-ass vouch for me in some ways when I moved it down the line to somewhere else, where in that place, drugs were more accessible. It was more commonplace. I think that was one of my first questions when I got to that high school. Was, you guys use drugs? Like, I had my agenda. I had my path. I wasn't there to make any new friends that I cared about getting hurt. I had my own blueprint now, but it didn't have anything to do with self-help or the actual blueprint that we were talking about previously. But exactly, moving up is not that hard as long as you're willing to sacrifice the things that it takes to do so. Way too easy, especially for a child to do. I was 15 years old at the time.
Going on 50.
Possibly 16.
15 or 16 going on 50.
Yeah.
I mean, you're starting a business. I mean, essentially.
The business is started. It's not even something that's so hard to slip into. You just decide that you want to be a cog in the machine.
Right.
It moves with or without you. And if your identity is wrapped around what the business is, as long as I move enough of this stuff here, I have my cut here, my chemical imbalances are fine. And all I have to do is a couple favors here or there for the people who vouch for me. It's a weird exchange because it's not just a physical, financial business. You trade so much of yourself because at a young age, I never understood what the drugs were doing. Not only are they masking pieces of who you are, but in some ways you go too far, they're getting rid of them. I look at it at trauma in some ways as a fractured mirror. You smack it enough times and it just creates more and more versions of yourself. When you look back in the mirror, it's more of your just questioning of which version of me am I trying to analyze right now? And drugs did that to me hard. Drugs alone, let alone the stuff that I decided to subjugate myself to get my means to an end figured out.
You've lost your identity.
100%. And that actually hit more later on, but absolutely. As the story advances, as your own lifeline, the progression of it all. At the pinnacle of it, I wasn't able to speak. When I decided to finally get through with all this stuff, I had to rebuild my character and try to figure out who I was at all.
It's a beautiful, tragic analogy, the broken mirror.
Yeah.
Because you keep beating your head into it. And there's another image of you, and each piece, like a fingerprint's different.
All from different perspectives. One may show a good side of you, then you turn a little bit and you see a side to yourself that shows you exactly why you did the drugs in the first place. Yeah. So it can be a validating mirror, and most of the time, in my opinion based completely again, I saw a lot of shame and regret. I saw a lot of confirmation without those right coping mechanisms. Without the right coping mechanisms, every time I looked into the mirror, I saw a reason that validated why I was doing what I was doing. Whatever you want to call it, the evil, the enemy, was looking right back at me through the glass telling me, there's still room on this mirror for you to break. There's no reason to quit now. You're just gonna go back to being someone you don't enjoy anyway. So it's a slippery slope, is really what I'm getting at.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to take a quick break. TJM Trucking is your local trucking company when it comes to hauling gravel, dirt, aggregate, rock, and heavy equipment or grain. TJM Trucking primarily serves southeast North Dakota, west central Minnesota, northeast South Dakota, but does travel outside those areas if needed. TJM Trucking also offers trenching services, driveway building and reconstruction, lot clearing, and formation. If you have an upcoming project, give TJM Trucking a call at 701-640-6211.
Okay, so we were talking about the hierarchy. So when we imagine addicts, for us normies is what I like to call us, we see the person struggling on the side of the road. We see the homeless. We see all of these things. But what we don't understand is that addicts need to belong and the hierarchy that comes with it that you were talking about with the game. So tell us a little bit about that need to belong.
I think there's a couple different ways to look at it. I think some maybe an actual role you play and something you can't get out of. You've decided to be a part of something bigger. And some of them pertain just to the shackles that come with that same chemical imbalance. I was 14 and a half when it wasn't fun anymore. It wasn't a choice. It was something I needed to do. Because at some point, the piece that nobody realizes until they either go through extensive rehabilitation, and even then it's only if they want to listen or can listen. If the drugs get a hold on you enough, the dependency becomes stronger than your reason. Just as those people on the street have the ability to ask why, just as strong as that thought is within them, the strength of it's not even a question as to whether I'm going back for more drugs or not is within the drug addict that they're trying to ask that question to. The hierarchy that comes with that, sure, some of it may be delusional for some people. Oh, but what? I mean, I haven't necessarily heard of this one, but what will my dealer do without my money? I don't know how common that is, but it could be some sort of lie someone tells themselves to make it seem like they are playing a role. That may be at more of a smaller level, but honestly, it's more so if you run, in my opinion, if you run for long enough from the things that can help you and finding healthy coping mechanisms, and all you know is the heroin, all you know is the meth, some people see addiction as an old friend. It's the comfort. It's the piece of things that they know is going to be there for them because they know when they take that hit, they know what happens. They don't have to deal with the, I ask so many questions and I get no answer. I do the left, right of the day and I don't make progress, but they know what happens when they flick that lighter. They know what happens when they make certain moves to achieve a certain goal. It's the one thing that's been confirmed daily, probably, for the last however long they've been addicted. Just as those people are confident in saying, I go to work and I do the things that I'm supposed to do in society that fulfill me, those things don't fulfill that person on the street. They can't, because they are so far removed from the same societal norms that you're working with that question is completely out of their narrative. It's completely out of their realm of existence. And that's completely barring any connection to someone that isn't even fully addicted to drugs, and that's just smoke and mirrors. That could be someone who is technically dependent on them, but it majorly is addicted to the lifestyle, the connection, the camaraderie, the people around them that are achieving the same goal. At least they have a quote-unquote family there in their mind. Something that they were missing deep down long ago is being fulfilled with whatever they're doing. Just as that person may be talking to their significant other, oh, our city is so dirty now. That person out there, why would they be doing that? Why would they be on the street? There's so many different aspects to it. It's such a dirty game because it's not just about the low level, how I like to call it, below the line society, there is a process in this country where there's money to be made off those drug zombies walking around San Francisco. There is people profiting off of the, whatever they call it, I can't remember what the label is, the industrial drug complex, or it's
pharmaceutical industry, industrial drug complex.
It's just,
absolutely.
There's so much more at play than that person chose to make our city dirty. That person chose to ruin their life in ways, yeah. But in the same regard, like that person asking that question, you know, they're speaking to their significant other in the driver's seat. Why is our city like this? Why are they out on the curb while having a kid in the back seat that they're neglecting, watching a tablet as their parent? The tablet is teaching them how to absorb life. That kid asks, why are they that way? The parent says, that's just the way it is, and they're breeding the same process that created that person in the first place. Not like it's their fault, but it's so many moving parts that it is such a loaded question, because we are all completely different. Why we do the things we do is completely different. And I'm not saying it's an unanswerable question, don't get me wrong, but what I am saying is I think it's the wrong question.
Right. You're groomed by the wrong people at the right time.
I think circumstances, each individual circumstance, each individual story dictates where they sometimes end up. I mean, whether it's sociological or, personal, psychological, there's mental illness sometimes involved prior. I mean, everybody's got a story, and we certainly don't point the blame game here at all. But I will tell you, from my time on the street, I learned a lot, and I became a lot better when I found a little bit of empathy again, because I worked really hard at our transient population, identifying them and getting to know them and getting to know some of their circumstances, humanizing it. Because you would go from, I just did it the other day, actually. I was driving home and went across the bridge and had to call the non-emergency number. There was a guy passed out. Go too far, you're going to smack your head on some ice right now, but you'd end up in the river and probably dead. There was a time I would have just not my problem. It is our problem. It's everybody's problem. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one way to look at it. It's everybody's got a level of responsibility here as a human being. And if you can go back to that primal, look, we're all humans. We all start at some point. Can we just look out for one another a little bit better?
Yeah, and I think if you lose track of that responsibility, that's what makes you less human.
Absolutely.
I think which is ironic, because there's a lot of people walking around saying these drug zombies are subhuman trash, but it's the connectivity, it's the piece that, that you can't see, that they wish they had, but ultimately it's what we were talking about before, that massive hurt that they never tried to, they were never able to connect the dots with. For sure they tried. We tried. I'm involved in that populace, or was involved, but it's the massive hurt. That's what I'm saying. The question is wrong. It's not why are they, doing those drugs. It's like, why are they there? How did they get there? And you're driving your Lexus. How great.
It's interesting you bring that up, because it's very educational to me, and I hope everybody that listens, they're getting some level of education out of this, because my son's a pharmacist and he works in a cancer center. I said, why can't they just cure cancer? He goes, cancer is an arbitrary term. There's so many different types. And I didn't know. It's like, well, cancer's cancer. It's not. And doing these podcasts and talking to some parents whose children are cancer survivors are going through treatments, you learn that. And it makes it very real. And I think this educational aspect is one small, maybe piece of that broken mirror puzzle that has been needed to be told. And I've never heard anyone tell it.
I think too, just listening to this, I'm a manager of a retail store, and just looking at it from like the business perspective, these are highly motivated, goal-oriented individuals.
Some of the most motivated I've ever met.
Absolutely.
I mean, what they're motivated towards is a different path than what other people take. And I think the motivation is the big key to this piece.
Well, there's different societal rules too.
Right.
Don't get me wrong.
Right.
If they weren't illegal, that motivation wouldn't have been there.
Right.
I'm not even trying to push anything down that route, but I'm just saying what separates that person in the Lexus and the guy on the curb is not that much.
No, there's not.
Right.
It's like 1 degree of separation, right? I mean,
Barely.
Right. That can be you tomorrow. That could be you. And maybe that person in the Lexus has their own stuff they're doing. They just are doing it different. You know what I mean? It's some of it's choices, maybe. Some of it may be privilege, opportunity, or a lack of opportunity, maybe is a better way to say that.
I think one of the biggest pieces to identify too is the drugs don't walk around with legs and opposable thumbs and a face. They don't beat you up and make you high and like force you to break yourself down. They don't push you in front of that mirror and smack your face into it. It's like the stuff within us. It's the stuff within your parents. It's the stuff within the people you surround yourself with. So the pieces we didn't solve, everyone has their own broken mirror. And I've also heard it be explained by a ball of yarn that you can't untangle, like just a bunch of tangled knots. And then like when you have that fractured trauma, like you have a bunch of knots that are even more difficult to untangle. But anyway, it's that similar metaphorical value to that person in the car could wait till everyone else goes to sleep at night and they take their shot of whiskey because they also don't have that coping mechanism, but they have to be strong for little Johnny in the back. They have to have this unwavering physical front, the image of it all. But the image of it, oh, I'm a good parent who tells my kid no when it needs to be said, right? That's great to be able to say no. But what I will say is sometimes it takes more than a no. It takes a conversation with someone who passes over that boundary that I was talking about. The teenager to a parent is a teenager. It's still a child to them. That teenager thinks, I'm a grown adult. I deserve to be given an explanation. And that's funny, coming from a kid who stands 4'2", voice hasn't dropped, and you deserve to tell me what's going on, right? But in all reality, that's a human brain.
Yeah, developing.
They are going to grow up to do many things. Now, diverting the conversation to a place where this is how the world is. These are the constructs that I'm working with, and these are our boundaries. Yes and no, bottom line, done. Like it makes it so imprisoning. It's such a locked in view. But what I mean is that person driving by, I'm not trying to demonize them either. The human connectedness piece of it all is, I think, the most important part. If it wasn't so condemning, sometimes, not all the time. And I know that was the question is innocent. Mm-hmm. How did they get there? And we're more so just trying to shed light on to why things do end up that way. But I think asking some prerequisite questions may help.
Sure.
And some of them being directed definitely inward. Mm-hmm. Not only like how far truly am I away of being in their shoes, maybe even just asking, what's it like in their shoes, rather than why would they put those shoes on? Or
that's
a great way.
That is a perfect way to say it. It's like, why would they put them on? Or it's like, you know what? I wonder what that's like. Let's think about that. It's respectful, it's empathetic, and it's real. And if you have the ability to do that, and this also takes a little bit of courage to do that, because you're going to go out of your comfort zone for someone who hasn't done that. It'll make you better. The more you can understand, that's the whole purpose of all this. Trying to understand and get people to understand so they may be willing to put those shoes on voluntarily just for a little bit to see what it's like. And maybe they'll understand a little bit more so they can talk to their kids about it. It's like, you know what? I have some experience in that. Absolutely. I'm glad that you asked.
Absolutely. I think drawing a funny, not funny, definitely funny, an interesting connection too is when I started taking the opiates, it was to block the empathy. I didn't want to feel those emotions that come with the weight of what I was doing with my life. And even now, living a life without the drugs, responsibility gets difficult. It gets heavy. People rely on you. Sometimes you think, I don't have the time. I don't have the energy. I don't have the time to ask those questions. Not asking those questions is the same opinionated, but it could have a correlation between the same reason that some people decide to do those drugs.
Right.
I don't want to feel that. Why would I ask those questions? I might come across a horrible truth that I'm not much different. Maybe I come across a horrible truth that, there's many things I could do to help that person, but I have to go get my coffee, right? I have to get Johnny to school. I have to do this stuff, and that's okay. You have your responsibilities. It's not your fault that they're there. But the condemning questions is also a reason as to why those people still feel the way they feel, I think.
I agree with you 100% on that. And, one of society right now's biggest things, running a nonprofit like we do, I always thought money would be the biggest issue, and it's the least issue. It's time. And time to me has become a scapegoat. There should be time. There should be time. And, I'm not a great sleeper. Well, I am now. I sleep way too much. Maybe not. I'm just making up for it. But there's time. You can find the time. Time can, some days maybe not, but time to me is a choice and what you do with it. And one of my favorite bands, Tesla, wrote a song is You Get What You Give. And it's not my favorite song they did, but the lyrics are spot on. You're going to get what you give. And if you even give time, and I'm not, go at a soup kitchen, I had this rare opportunity, and I call it an opportunity, to look inside the lives of people working the street, becoming a representative of every social class, of addiction, of, other things, many, many things. It didn't matter what color you were, where you're from, what language you spoke. There's always barriers. But when I took the time to learn a little bit about it, and like you said, put their shoes on just for a little bit, you not only start giving respect, you get respect. And that's a basic human right to me, is someone deserves respect until they don't. And don't get me wrong, I mean, some of the people I dealt with addiction, they weren't themselves. And did we have to go hands-on, or did they want to throw hands? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But the next day or a week later, completely different person. So for a popo side of things, a lot of times it's just protection, or like a parent, like you've been describing, it's the same person over and over again. And it's like, I don't have time for this today. I've got this to do, this to do. I've got this waiting for me. And kind of gets a little bit out of control sometimes. And you start sucking that in. And I tell you, I don't know if friendship is the right thing, but I made a lot of friends with some of our people that the rest of the community may have saw problems, but you know what? They knew everybody and they saw everything. And we built a partnership. Maybe that's a better thing. But it was based out of respect, because they walked in my shoes, because I'd explain to them, like, this is why I was pissed off the other day, because I had this going on. And you know what? They understand. It's like, no, I get it.
Yeah, I commend you for that, because a lot of people can't can't connect in that way.
Oh, it took me years. I knew everything. I tell you what, I didn't take the time to do that until I matured. Mm-hmm. And like you were talking about being the little kid with the voice, the voice hasn't changed yet. Mm-hmm. I thought I knew everything, and I knew very little. I knew a lot about my job. I knew very little about a human beings. And when you can set that ego aside, it makes things a lot more effective and a lot easier.
Yep.
Get out of the car, walk around, go talk to people.
Right.
I didn't like, I'm still kind of a recluse, but I've kind of come out of my shell doing this and talking with people and going outside the box. So, I want you to share whatever you want to share, but, and I don't want to speed up your story. I don't want to slow your story down. I do at some point, though, want to get into, we're talking about a broken mirror. I always looked at it as a broken window, and somebody wrote a poem one time about how into a window 1,000,000 pieces of glasses flew, which is the opposite, putting it back together. When you're ready, we can talk about putting it back together. Broken window, things like that.
Yeah. Well, I guess the path quickest to that would be, whoops, sorry, bopped the microphone.
There's a lot of shit, dude. I mean,
Yeah.
I don't want you to. I don't want you to skip over anything that you think is pertinent that's going to help someone.
It's just hard to examine too, because there's a lot of aspects to the story that are great to delve into, and there's a dozen different questions that come with that.
Right.
You know, there's the progression of it it may be confusing, but that could also help people.
Right. And I think people should know the reason you're sitting across from us today is because that's exactly your sole purpose. Is like, you know what? It's a private thing, but if it can help one person, that's you putting your feet in someone else's shoes, like you said.
Well, I guess then here we go. Moving on from place to place, I decided to do the exact same thing. I created my own blueprint, like I said earlier. I decided to move along, do the same thing. And that game, metaphorically, I'll use chess as an analogy. I played as a pawn for so long, and I got moved around where it was supposed to go. And when I started making moves for myself, I realized, wow, I can move around this chessboard a little differently. I don't just have to move one spot. And then you get into more cuts and angles and darker sides to things, and which allows you to take on a little bit more weight, more trauma, and more drugs for me to get rid of that empathetic piece of things, to stop caring about the people I was hurting. Because, like I said earlier, the game is a bunch of people with no legal money trail, no legal path, achieving a means to an end, whatever that means. I don't have this, I'm going to have it now. Like, I don't have this now, but by this time tomorrow, I'll have so much of it I don't know what to do with it. And also the chemical imbalance people that are playing the game, which is everybody, but if that's the main motivation for them, and they don't quite play with money like it's its own respective piece, like, I think those people end up staying pawns for quite a while, but the players in the game, I think, are a little important to focus on too, because they've not only taken the route, they've solidified the fact that is life, that is what it's supposed to be, and those type of people aren't supposed to make it out. Technically, statistically, they're not supposed to. I bought into an idea where, after all that had gone on, now, I mean, this jump will fast forward a bit of time, but, 19, 20 years old, the ante had been upped on my life quite a bit. There had been targets on me physically. I played the game. There was people who wanted what I had because they didn't have it. I wanted what they had because I didn't have it. And we played that game. We decided to get extremely physical with it because in their own respective right, I was dealing with the same type of people that I was. They experienced loss at a young age. They decided to go to the streets and look for something that they didn't have before. And, we all just glazed right past all of our coping mechanisms that we didn't have. And we decided to in a way, push those feelings on others so that we didn't have to feel them. It's like that Batman Joker complex where like the same thing happens to both of them, but one of them decides I'm gonna protect everybody and make sure that this happens to no one else. And then the other one says I'm gonna do this to everyone else so that I never have to feel it again. And it's a villainous way to play, but at least you don't have to encounter your emotions very often. But things started to take a massive turn. The copious amounts of drugs caught up. They didn't work anymore, and they would start. It was no longer, and it quickly after I started doing them it wasn't quite that fairy tale feeling anymore. It was just maintenance, but it was never a horror film until they stopped working and I got slow, quick glimpses of what that mirror actually looked like. I'm like, wow, that's terrifying in there.
Yeah.
Let me find something else to put in my brain. Let me do this to someone else so I don't have to feel that. And you grab that shovel, you just keep digging. And a way that I found to mitigate it that only put me in more danger was to just keep trying to move up those rungs and keep trying to elevate myself in a lifestyle that I had no business being in. And when you're dealing with substances, in the day and age where fentanyl is running through the streets, overdose is a word in your daily vocabulary, whether it's you or someone else. Everyone carries Narcan. Or they should.
I got a lot of it.
The unlucky folks who didn't, that I know of, or just didn't have anyone who cared about that. It's a tragic road to drive down.
And as an addict, being in that type of family situation, they call it family. Am I correct? Like with the people that you were around pretty, daily. I would imagine that there were quite a few people with that maybe OD'd, didn't come out of it. What does that look like in that world?
Unfortunately, I think most of the reason why we did it is to not feel the emotions that come with it. Same day we were back at the dealer's house. I remember one time, it's just so commonplace, especially when you live in bigger cities. Just all over the place. And it's so integrated into our society. It's so hard to even believe that it wasn't like planned in some way. To have such a flood, like such an influx of opiates, and not enough help to solve it. The first time I ever went to rehab, it was such a financially based endeavor. It wasn't. I did not feel like it was completely formulated to help us grow and move on from it.
It's like checking the box.
Like, we got them in here. We got them these things.
Now it's on them.
Yep. And they say the standard time is 3 months. You have a guy who's done this for 30 years. You think 3 months is going to fix him?
No.
And then what? You go send him to an outpatient once a day to talk about the same checklist of things? How was yesterday? Was yesterday okay? Why do you feel that way? The questions are tailored towards them getting their insurance money. And and it's like, I don't even mean to like throw shade or anything, but like, it just seems so superficial.
Dehumanizing. It's just like what your parents did to you is saying, don't worry about it.
Exactly. And there's levels to it everywhere in society. It's just how, like, the indoctrination that comes with each different, piece, in that regard. But
I think some of these places, probably not all, but some of these places, they're in with insurance for, there's no doubt, and then also courts. I mean, court ordered certain things, and it's like, hey, there's a lot going on in the world right now, especially locally, about businesses that are getting money that really don't operate. These are operating, but what are they doing?
Yep. And that is another thing you can relate to the same complex a drug addict has, is everyone's just trying to check their boxes in some way. Some people just trying to be okay. Some people just trying to get ahead financially. It's like, this is what I need to check my boxes to make sure my business still runs. Well, that's great. Unfortunately, oopsie, you chose a lifestyle where you're actually out there trying to help people. So you can't just check the boxes. Like, anyway, that's a completely different topic. Actually, the overdose is a scary thing. I've watched it happen. I unfortunately, I know exactly what it feels like when your lungs are collapsing. I mean, multiple times just on my end, but I've had to carry someone I didn't have. It's a terrifying feeling. But like, I hope this can also shed some light on that same question that person asks on the street driving by. You can die, get revived, wake up the next day, and the chemicals imbalances in your brain are telling you, I wonder if my guy's awake. Like, I wonder if he'll hook me up. Like, you're still trying to cover that stuff up because yet you still haven't developed any coping mechanisms. You haven't developed any way to actually ground yourself to reality.
Nothing's changed.
That naloxone can knock off the opiates on your receptors, but it can't change how you deal with yourself. Like, yeah, I know. I guess I kind of got lost in that question. I don't really know what else to say.
It's a lot. I mean, it's a lot, and I thought you did brilliant at it because, you're putting a lens out there. A lot of people don't get to see through. Unfortunately, a lot of people do see through it and can probably associate. But I mean, I don't know how to describe it. It's a lens and it's a life that people have not walked. And yeah, you develop relationships, and when you're carrying a friend whose lungs feel like they're are literally collapsing. I mean, I have friends that have been exposed to fentanyl, and if it wasn't for immediate medical attention, they probably wouldn't be with us. And it was inadvertent. I mean,
right. It's such a small amount to actually make that happen. And you don't expect it when you're doing copious amounts of it. Your tolerance is so high. She didn't breathe all the way to the hospital. I carried her to the car. I drove her to the car off of verbal directions. I didn't know anywhere I was in the city. I was delusional as well. I asked my dealer at the time, where's the nearest place that might have Narcan? He didn't have any. And he said left, right, boom, boom, boom. Somehow I figured out the directions, sped there, drifted up in the front, run in. She needs Narcan. Boom, they get her, and then I get arrested for driving a stolen car. I missed that part. Yeah. But it's like the whole life is a mess. The whole life is a mess.
Part of that broken mirror.
Yeah.
And
and that should show you too. All even through all of it, us as addicts, us as people playing that role with lifestyle addiction, doing all this other stuff, the humanity piece that comes with actually trying your absolute hardest to provide for those around you that are doing the same things as you. I mean, you're still human. Those people on the curb are still human. They are still, whether it looks like the way that you would fight that, or what you think you would fight that, it's great to look at someone else's thing and be like, I would do that differently. Oh, well, I'd like to see that. I would. And that would be beautiful to see if you could flourish, and that makes other addicts happy. When I actually started getting my life together, one of the people who really took care of me out on the street, she told me, you don't have a place with me anymore. You figure this out. You actually have a shot at this, so, I love you to death, but there's no place for you out here. Like, we care, we love for each other, we do the same things that any other human would do. It's just at a different level. It's just at a working off some sort of phantom energy,
Wow. It's humanity.
Absolutely.
It's humanity.
And that's important for people to hear, the humanity part of it. We try to, put that wall up when we see people struggling out on the street like that. We try to say, well, that would never happen to my kid, or I would never do it that way because I put this and this and this into place. So that's never going to happen to us. It's a completely different world. And the talking about the overdose piece of it, like, I'm just thinking about that and about the people that have to deal with that on a daily basis, and reading, like anytime something's posted on, Facebook or things like that, and they're talking about, oh, well, now we have this in place for the addicts to get Narcan. And you read all the horrific comments that people make, just not putting themselves in other people's shoes. And I think that's extremely important. If you get anything out of this podcast, is just understanding that these people are someone's kid, someone's parent, child, doesn't matter. These are humans. These are real people.
Yeah, and who are we to say that they don't have a shot?
Right.
You don't know.
Well, and here's the thing. I didn't have a shot in terms of how it looked externally, how I felt internally, what the statistics say, how many times I had already overdosed, what I already did on a daily basis, what the police thought of me in the cities that I was in. There was no way. Zero way. Another thing with the Narcan is the system isn't set up for addicts to win.
Right.
You can go get a methadone prescription, and I'm not knocking anybody who does MAT. If you can recover that way, that is completely okay. But all I'm doing is drawing the similarities to methadone to heroin. People are still tripoding out on the street off methadone. And there is other options, Suboxone, all this stuff. All my opinions on all that other stuff too, like, go different directions. They've helped me. All of the above have helped me through my journeys. But what I will really draw attention to is there is not one goddamn person who's on drugs that's too far gone.
Hear that. Hear that over and over. I'd love for you to say that again.
There's not one goddamn person on drugs that's too far gone. And what I mean by that is they don't know they can recover. The people around them don't believe they can recover. But whether anybody wants to contribute any of it to spirituality or what you believe or anything, there is something bigger than us that has that sort of thing in their hands. It's not in yours. And we thought we knew what we were doing when we were balancing our chemical imbalances before when we were kids. And it got us to that point. We thought we knew everything. So everyone else in the world thinking they know everything about what you're capable of or what society is capable of or what the rehab is capable of, you don't know anything, until it's all over. Everyone likes to use it so lightly. Hindsight's 20/20. Well, it truly is. Sometimes the next thing you can do, the only thing you can do, is left foot, right foot, left foot, right foot. Whether that's physically, metaphorically, I like to picture everything as a fight. Because sometimes there is no rhyme or reason to anything that's going on. It's just, you're going to have to battle through this one. It's not check boxes A, B, C, D, and now I don't feel like there's bugs under my skin from withdrawals. It's not, I can make these moves and life will just be perfect. I'll have a white picket fence and everything will be put together. It's not an easy battle, any of it.
It's a lifelong battle, is it? Am I?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can answer this question or you don't have to. Was there a defining moment where something led up to you and said, all right, enough.
I had a lifestyle addiction that come with a bunch of drugs. When I hop state to state, like, things change. Even just colloquialisms, but the way people speak, the way people run their operation, the way these organizations move, whether it's family-based, whether it's a collective families that make themselves up into being something more powerful, whether it's just culture. And when you move vast distances inside the United States, massive things changed. I got to where I was in the end of my run completely. I didn't know at the time, but it's where it would end. And the game I was playing where I was at before was completely different. I knew no rules. And what I met by that person who took care of me on the street saw how I was moving, and they said that's not how things work out here. You're going to die doing that. And I was like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. And I tried to, and I got myself in some heavy situations. Ultimately, in a lot of those ways, she kept me alive. Kudos to her. Like, she's still battling it right now, but she had the ability to look outside herself and decide this young kid has a chance, and in doing something, or even it may have even been smaller than that. Maybe, and for sure, we were using each other as a means to an end in a lot of ways. We both had to survive and get our fix, but there was a deep care for each other, and it wasn't a significant other. We didn't have any sexual relations. We didn't, none of that. We had a care for another human being and decided to have each other's back in a place that there was, it felt like God didn't exist in those streets. And we went down the rabbit hole many times. And watched society collapse when the George Floyd stuff happened, the riots, the way people turned on each other, how humanity just falls apart, and all things adding up. Every time I would try to find a new plan, a new scheme, a new means to an end to get back to where I was in the previous place that I was. I said, oh, no, I had movement there. I had power. I could survive off of what I was doing there. How can I recreate that here? And I found no way of doing that. I was with a person who I felt loyalty to. This one is, at the time, a significant other. We did the whole homeless, drug addiction, in and out of jails. We did the whole tour together. And we hated each other. Whether it was we loved each other so much we hated each other, or we hated each other so much we loved each other in some way, I don't know what it was. But ultimately what it was the thing that really seems as if it was the defining moment for me was I truly felt like I was out of moves. And I never had felt that before. And that's completely from my perspective, where that's the kind of person that I am. If there is a 0.005% chance that something's going to get done, and I somehow think that there's a logical way that I make it out with only a few holes in my body or something, I'm like, well, if I can achieve it, I'm going to go ahead and try. And sometimes it was that low, it seemed. But this way I said, at this point in time, the drugs didn't get me high, yet I had to do them, or else the withdrawals felt like I was going to die. There was the threat of seizures because of the benzos. The opiates were just something to maintain my ability to see straight and have my brain work. And the tolerance level was so high that I had been running a scheme where I would sell someone a car, take it back from them, and then sell it to someone else. Sell someone a car, take it back from them, and sell it to someone else. They found people who knew me and decided, this person likes opiates. Go ahead and smoke him out, and we'll wait till he nods out, and we'll hit him with a hot shot. And that's exactly what they did. They packed it with so many drugs that there's no way that they thought a human could survive with it. Hit me. I was out for 2 days. They said that these ladies found me in this parking lot. Somebody just left me for dead. My tolerance was so high that even when they hit me with a hot shot, it didn't kill me. For some reason. They said they sat there dripping water in my mouth for 2 days trying to get me to just absorb hydration. But anyway, ultimately, at the end of it all, there was no physical moves for me to live. There was no social moves for people who cared about me. It felt like, what I will say, throughout this journey, my father was an integral piece. We linked back up throughout the end of this, and he really pushed the narrative that I wasn't too far gone and that I did have a way through it all. So the one speaking into my life was kind of relaying the same things I was feeling. There was no way that I could see out of this, no more moves to make, no more plays. And I decided to give rehab yet another shot. But I said these other facilities didn't do anything for me. It was just a little break, a little tolerance break. Sure, they gave me maintenance drugs so that I didn't die. Whatever it was, methadone or Suboxone or whatever it was. But I said I need to try something different. And we did some research. We found a faith-based program that wasn't based off the 12 steps. And I liked that because it wasn't just a bunch of boxes to check. Initially, I was super scared about it. But yeah, even then there's a bunch of questions. No, am I just going to stay here and get this tolerance break? We'll see. I'll figure it out tomorrow. While I was in there, that significant other got pregnant with somebody else's kid, only further pushing the idea there's nothing out there for me. Other than the only person out there for me right now is my dad, and we've decided that this makes the most sense. So I fought it out in this treatment program. It's a 13-month program, but I stayed for 11 months. I ended up having to leave early because they don't allow anything there. Absolutely anything, which is right. They should. But I decided to get super into physical fitness. I had pre-workout and protein powders, and it looked super sketchy. They found them in my room, and it was just in Ziploc bags. And so
it's a great idea.
Yeah, whoops.
To people taking in a bunch of drug addicts, they're like, "What is this?" I'm like, "No, you gotta believe me. It's not what it looks like."
Yeah.
But they're like, "Get lost." But what I did take in from all that was I walked in there, and they had no beds open. And I said, dude, this is the end of the line for me. And the front desk lady was like, we don't have space. There's no, you're going to have to set up an appointment. And the bar is set a lot higher. I'm like, okay, so if I have to wait 6 days, that's $700, $800, $900 worth of drugs that I have to do so that I don't collapse. I mean, I don't completely lose my mind, crash my car, hurt someone to the point where I go to prison forever trying to get these drugs. It's like the month. Anyway, I'm trying to explain this to a lady who probably just took this desk job because it's good money for her at the time. Maybe she has a deeper connection to it. I don't know. I was so lost. But what I do remember from that day is a guy that was like me, a little further along in his journey. He just comes and grabs me around the head and he goes, all right, I'll talk to him. He pulls me in the back room and he said, if you can be here on Monday morning, I'll find a way to get you a bed. After I explained to him the whole story, and that's what I did. I remember standing in the front of that treatment center, and that girl, the girl at the time, that significant other, she was screaming we were screaming at each other, And I don't even know what it was about. It was just kind of just like we both knew something was about to change, the end of the line. I wanted something better, and I think she did too. We both went in. She left like pretty quickly. But just the whole thing, the life, all the constructs were just falling apart. Everything was falling apart. And it wasn't even as bad as half the other stuff that I had lived through. It's something just switched in my brain. I don't even know if I can pinpoint the moment or anything. It was just something that switched in my brain. This is not sustainable. I am going to die, or I'm going to kill someone else, or I'm going to do something completely out of pocket. And at that point in time, I couldn't put any sort of thoughts or words to any of this anyway. Somehow I was puppeteering myself to try to do what was right. And, ultimately through visitation and just building my relationship with God, learning that like when I couldn't pick myself up and I couldn't carry myself, I didn't have to do it alone. Like the faith-based piece of that is what saved my life. I knew I couldn't carry the weight. Found a way to surrender it. And,
You accepted it.
Yeah, accepted it. And God carried it alongside me. It was one of the only times so far up to that point in life where I was like I was able to say, like, I am not the king of this show. Everyone walks around with all this main character energy, and for sure, in your own respective right, you are the main character of your story. But it's exactly why I think those people everyone has such an opinionated based question or opinion, about other people, is that, well, that's not how my interpretation of that is. That's not how my main character story goes, and that's okay. I'm sure theirs doesn't go like yours either.
Well, you don't watch every series that comes out on Netflix or anything. Some are crap. I mean, I don't watch no knock on this. Any Real Housewives stuff, I just can't do it because I'm not a drama guy, especially self-inflicted drama. But My Beautiful Bride, she loves those shows. Give me the drama of professional wrestling. I'm good with that. At least it's entertainment for me. Man, I tell you what. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just kind of taking it in for a second and thinking about how you said you had nothing else to work towards in that life. So you chose to take a different life. There's that goal-oriented motivational piece of where, this life had nothing left for you. So now you work towards a better life over here. And I loved that. I loved that piece of it, that even when you were talking about there's nobody that's too far gone. And that is so true because they are goal-oriented, motivated people. And what you're motivated towards is how you're going to get through your life.
And I think that's a great way of explaining it. That's exactly what changed, is the actual stats of the matter didn't add up. What I wanted to build, I didn't have the time left. What I left in the places before, I didn't have the time or the knowledge of the place I was in now to build that. My time was running out. What I was doing wasn't sustainable. And my only option was a 180. Mm-hmm. Like, that's exactly what it is in the Bible. The word repentance means to turn away from. And that's all I could do. I had to drop my bags and turn away from the game.
And that's exactly why I love it when you call it the game, because there's a beginning and an end to a game. And there's a winner and a loser. And when we're talking about losing at the game, we're talking about life and death. Mm-hmm. And that's the no BS reality of it. It's a life and death game, because that is ultimately, we're all going to die. but this is going to be chemically inflicted death.
And a lot of people might say if you're lucky, like you play a game taking what's not yours because you need it, not understanding that they need it too. People get violent. People get real violent.
Of course I do.
Like over things that make no sense. And then you want to throw mental illness and then chemical dependency in that. I mean, it's mayhem. Just mayhem. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it was, is realizing that my brain wasn't in it anymore. There was no coach to pull me out in the fourth quarter. There's no team to decide when my time is up. I decided to retire because I was the team. I was the players, and I was the coach in that metaphor. Whatever you call it, whatever the career was, right? The legacy of it. You know, I was able to make it to that point, but the game was just done for me. I don't even know. Some people may have a spiritual awakening. Some people may have all kinds of places where they could say, this is my turning point. The amount of cars I crashed, people I hurt, people that hurt me, lives that were there one day, gone the next, incarcerations, attempts to get clean, failures, all of it was so heavy that I didn't end up having just this is what I needed, my rock bottom. I always found a way to make that hole bigger. And at this point, it was just like a dead end, a true dead end, but a dead end where I saw hope in it. I had my dad. He supported me through that whole choice, which he had no reason to. I stole from him. I pawned his wedding ring. I stole from other people and tried to sell it to him. We had to write up contracts just for me to be around him. I would too. I was not a good dude. I like to say it as I was a bad guy, but a good man. I'd care in the right aspects, but a bad dude. And he loved me still. He found a way. And my whole family did. God bless them. I think they learned alongside me, the whole family. And that's an important piece of it too to share, is that it's not just the addict that needs to change. There's a reason they are that way. There's a path that got them there. And that's exactly why I love the fourth step, is it's what they did, what you did, and what actually happened.
It's the truth.
And it's like, great, sure. Maybe they are the catalyst that needs to change, but are you looking at it in the right way? Do you have the right lens on for this? If you don't and you don't have the capability of having that lens, do you just bow out and let them do it? The strategy changes. We're just not just dealing with a kid anymore. We're not just dealing with an adult. We're not just dealing with a human. This is a different beast. It's a faceless monster that doesn't have the ability to look you in the eyes and care about you. And some people, great. They can observe you and say, these is XYZ what you need to do, but who is willing to put on that armor and fight that faceless monster with you? Armoring up for that battle isn't even physical most of the time. It's trying to figure out where things went wrong. It's asking those right questions instead of the condemning ones that hurt others. It's that same thing they say about anger. It's like the poison that you take instead of giving to someone else. It's asking the wrong questions. And mad respect for the people who stuck around for me. My parents, my sister. I was going to say friends, but select friend. and rightfully so. I burned so many bridges. I don't
Small circles,
I
bro.
don't. Well, no, and like I don't condemn any of them. No, a lot of them were my doing. I decided, you get out of my life. I don't want to hurt you. But to them, it was me saying, screw you, man.
Is what it is.
And like all of it at a cost. But I wouldn't change a thing. I can't change a thing, and that's the thing. The acceptance piece of it is how people get to the place where they're able to do this kind of thing. I deeply care for others. I found a way to re-secure my empathy piece and also not let the shame condemn me and who I am now.
Well, I think that's important.
Huge.
You've got your identity back. The one that you choose.
Exactly.
Not somebody else. Not one that you have to seek. You've got your own morals and your own identity.
Right.
We could go for hours.
Sure could.
I warned you beforehand, and this has been so enlightening. And at some point, probably going to put you in a headlock, have a little wrestling match with you, and try and have you back. Because what's going to happen, and what I hope happens, is we're going to get messages with questions. And questions that I probably am not going to be able to answer. And we could do a whole another interview just based off those questions. Yeah. It happens frequently. But
I'll be here. I'd love to help any way I can.
I love that. And this is healing for me. Hopefully it's helping as well, and it's going to help other people. I do have the hardest question of the day usually, but I gave you a prep on it, so you got a warning. It's if you can narrow it down to just one piece of advice to give someone struggling out there or has walked maybe an associative journey like yours, what would that piece of advice be?
Well, first of all, you can't narrow it down to one piece of advice, but I'll do
it's
I'll
a tough one.
My best. That's so vast. What I'm going to have to do is say, what piece of advice would I have wanted? What piece of advice would I have wanted?
That's probably more fair.
We're going to visually, or not visually, we're going to verbally work through this one together, because I don't know. It's hard. I'll say, if there's anyone who was like me, and they're hearing this, I think we both know the amount of effort and work we put in to get to our means to an end. We put in what we will do to figure out that next step to achieve that chemical imbalance or that comfort zone that we're looking for. I think if you're at that level, you're not stupid, and you know that first high isn't achievable. You know maybe the rest of your journey isn't sustainable. But I think the piece of advice that I would share is try to base yourself as much in reality as you can and ask yourself, what the path forward separate from this actually looks like. And one, this isn't a question, it's doable. What you're seeing is doable, it's achievable. In your mind, it's definitely gonna be difficult, but I guess the actual piece of advice would be to look inside yourself and actually read in to the very beginning. Help that inner child that's hurt, that started this journey for you. And find those, I'm sure if you've been to rehab enough times, this is annoying to hear, but find those coping mechanisms that are going to help you. Utilize them, grow that toolbox into formulating your life into something that you can be proud of, because it's possible.
I'm sitting here looking at living proof of that.
Amen, brother.
I could not be more proud. I'm tired. I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
Very proud of you. Unbelievably proud. You're taking that compliment. So I can't thank you enough for doing this because it's something I don't have the ability to do, and there are few people that have the courage and ability to do it. And you've decided consciously and voluntarily to do this to help other people.
Well, I thank you for having me because I don't have the platform to do this.
Yeah, you do.
But we come together. It's that social aspect.
100%. 100%.
Staying connected.
Staying connected. Abs?
I'm just enjoying the it's possible. I think if you take anything away from this, no matter how you relate to this in any aspect of life, those are powerful words. It's possible.
It's possible. Ladies and gentlemen, till next time, thank you so much for listening. Reach out to us if you have questions. This is a resource that it's more than a resource. It's a human being that cares. Reach out. Get healthy. Get clean.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Kiss My Chaos podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we speak with some of the most intriguing people about their journey from trauma to triumph. If you find yourself in mental crisis, please seek professional medical help immediately.